Hi everyone, welcome back again. Ask any Manchester United supporter what the club's biggest problem position is, and the chances are most of them will say left back without a moment's hesitation. United have been plagued by left back troubles for more than a year, with Luke Shaw making just 15 appearances since the start of last season, and Tyrell Malacia not kicking a ball in United colours since May 2023. It meant the prospect of Alvaro Fernandes making progress at Benfica. This season was inevitably going to lead to questions being asked of United's decision to let him go. He joined the Portuguese club on a permanent deal in June after they triggered a €6 million option in his loan deal at the Estadio da Luz. The left-back, who United have the option to re-sign via a buyback clause, is quickly making a name for himself, racking up 9 appearances so far this season, 7 of which have been starts. His standout performance was during Benfica's 4-0 demolition of Atletico Madrid in the Champions League earlier this month. Producing an accomplished showing with and without the ball, it left United fans rueing what might have been, with many suggesting he may have been the answer to their ongoing left-back struggles. And for Portuguese football expert Tom Kundert, the 21-year-old's performance against Atletico made it easy to understand why Kundert, who covers Portuguese football for Portugal Net and has been based in Lisbon for 30 years, told the Manchester Evening News. I was in the stadium that night, and I must admit I was blown away by his performance. Benfica as a whole played really well, but he was the best player on the pitch, defending, astutely beating his marker on numerous occasions when venturing forward, and generally keeping the momentum very much with Benfica throughout the 90 minutes, all this against a high-quality side packed with expensive and experienced. He's won over any doubters this season with his performances. Curiously, left-back was a big problem last season for Benfica, but if he keeps up this form, it will be a strong point of the team. At the time of the deal, a lot of United supporters suggested €6 million plus a potential €3 million in add-ons was a good deal for a player that had never made a competitive appearance at Old Trafford. He had spent the last 2 seasons out on loan at Preston North End, Granada, and Benfica, and Erik Ten Hag was clearly not convinced he was first-team ready. For those at Benfica, and the fee might be considered a bargain, Kundert concluded. Given the price wasn't excessive, I think most people thought it was a fair deal. He was decent enough last season without pulling up any trees. €6 million for a young player with some potential seemed about right. Right now, though, after his vast improvement in 2024-25, it looks like a bargain. As a result of Fernandes's prosperous start at Benfica, a lot has been made of United's decision to not offer him an opportunity to prove his worth. A lot of supporters felt he would have provided ideal cover in the absences of Shaw and Malacia. However, Portuguese football expert Aaron Barton, who analyses Portuguese football for Proxima Jornada, believes it is difficult to make a firm judgment. It's hard to say whether it was a mistake United allowing him to go, because if he was to stay at United, who is to say he would have featured and delivered, Barton told the Manchester Evening News, at Benfica, he can develop at a top club with high demands, but it's still a step off being a United player, where the scrutiny is so intense at times, especially given the club haven't been performing well on the pitch. A poor atmosphere around the club can harm a player's development and see them stall. I think going to Benfica was the smart move for the player. At this stage in his career, Benfica have been searching for an Alejandro Grimaldo replacement, who left the club in May 2023 to join Bayer Leverkusen. And whilst he isn't there yet with his attacking output, I think those at the club think they've got someone now who, if he stays, could be a huge part of their team over the next few seasons. If United are able to get him considerably cheaper than other clubs due to the buyback, I think it would be a smart move for the club to do so. They're getting to the stage where they're irrelevant, said Chris Boyd about Manchester United a few weeks ago. Boyd works for Sky Sports and, for some reason, was asked to give his thoughts on Erik Ten Hag when appearing on their news channel after the heavy defeat to Tottenham. Everyone is entitled to their opinion, But supporters rightly questioned why the opinion of Boyd, who spent his career knocking around Scotland and had a stint with Middlesbrough, was being sought on United, as nobody was wondering what his verdict was on the state of play. Just days later, it was ironic that Boyd was back on TV discussing United, so the club clearly aren't irrelevant if Sky Sports continue to peddle opinions on ongoings at Old Trafford. United haven't won the Premier League since 2013, but are still the biggest club in England, which means intense scrutiny, and a huge number of stories on United are published each day. The pressure of playing for United is unique, and not everyone can cope with the responsibility of wearing the shirt, while the manager is also forced to deal with minute-by-minute scrutiny. When a United manager is nearing the end of his tenure, it is naturally a huge story, and who could take the job next also dominates the news, just like it has done with Erik Ten Hag. Ten Hag's future was the biggest story at the end of last season, and the build-up to the FA Cup final was marred by United sounding out other managers over their availability. It wasn't a secret that United considered sacking. Ten Hag and Kieran McKenna was sounded out before the young coach signed a long-term contract with Ipswich Town. Thomas Tuchel held talks with Ratcliffe, and United had to come clean with Ten Hag and clarify that although they met with the German, they decided he was still the best man. The public nature of United considering other managers, while Ten Hag waited like a sitting duck, was not ideal, but given the coverage of the club, the news was bound to be reported. There is a magnifying glass over United, like no other club, which means it is always difficult for the board to keep an approach for another manager under wraps from the press. Journalists are tasked with finding stories and are only doing their jobs by writing up information, so it's down to the source of the story to prevent it from becoming public. That's why it was interesting to hear Tuchel praise England for their discreet approach when he was unveiled as England manager at a press conference on Wednesday afternoon. "Why did you choose England over United, who you have been strongly linked with?" the journalist asked, before Tuchel said, "which would have also been in England." Tuchel then added, "Because the idea and the way John and Mark presented it was very fast, very exciting and very confidential, very trustful and straightforward. That was basically a decision for this job and not a decision for anything else. You will understand, I will not comment on individual players today and for sure not comment on any other clubs." Although Tuchel declined to comment on United's interest, his praise for the FA's confidentially might have been a dig at Ratcliffe, considering details of his meeting were reported. It was suggested that when Tuchel met with Ratcliffe, he outlined his vision for United, but the pair didn't agree on the parameters of the role, and Ten Hag remained in charge. Tuchel didn't necessarily come out of those reports looking good, although he didn't look particularly bad either. And maybe he was irked by the details making it to the press. If that's true, it highlights the challenge United face when contacting other managers. There is a clamor for information about the club that is unique in the Premier League.